Okay. So again, everyone, good evening. As I was saying, my name is Elena Frigenti. I'm the Operations and Program Coordinator for the National Organization of Italian American Women. We are really very happy for you to be here with us to celebrate La Befana with a very special guest, Dina Gregory. She is a NOIA member. She is a teacher, a puppeteer, a storyteller, and many, many things. And she has focused on the character of La Befana in these past few years, starting with the COVID period. And she has created this podcast, La Befana's Table. And so tonight she will talk about La Befana, her magic, and everything in between. So Dina, sorry.
Thank you so much, and welcome to everyone who is here. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to the National Organization of Italian American Women for giving me this platform to be able to share my story and my journey with all of you. I guess we'll get started. So I want to share my screen with you. This is, here we go. Okay. Now you see all of my screen. There we go. Can everyone see okay? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Um,
Sorry, Dina,
yes.
before we start,
Yeah.
Carolina has a question because
Sure.
she reminds us that there is this tradition in Italy to hang the stocking on the mantelpiece of the fireplace. Yes, it's true. It's like it's used to be done here with Santa, and good boys and girls have just candies and cookies, and the bad ones have like coal, but actually it's like sweet coal. It's made of sugar. So it's, this is our tradition in Italy. Yes, go ahead.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. If you're, in the chat, you're welcome to say, what brought you here. This is going to be more, given that it is the Epiphany, this is going to be a little bit more of a contemplative experience rather than like festa and performative mode. I have a performative side, but tonight I would really, I want to share kind of a deeper space as this is. More about community building and sharing our genuine stories from our hearts to be able to see each other more and understand each other better. So tonight is the Epiphany, and it is also celebrated as Little Christmas, the 12 days after Christmas. I'm not sure how many people have celebrated that tradition. It is also comes with the tradition in Italy of La Befana. It is also for us here at La Befana's Table. As I said, I'm the creator of La Befana's Table, which is a Substack podcast and gathering space for curious conversations, storytelling, and more. And so today is the 12th day of Christmas, and kind of playing off of that, I created the 12 Days of Befana, which is a personal story telling series from guest contributors exploring themes of kindness, welcome, tradition, belonging, and the sacred in the everyday. It's inspired by the legend of La Befana and my own experience animating a puppet of this figure in New York City during the pandemic, which I will be sharing with you soon. And it's really the idea behind this series is that it's a celebration of a living legend woven from the true stories of our lives. And I can see on here, if I make this a little bit bigger now that I'm in that mode, that some contributors to that series are here. I have Danielle Marie Fusco is here, who contributed a beautiful story to that series. Ana Miranda, I see, is here, who contributed to the series as well and made this beautiful image of La Befana that is the background today. Michael Pergola is here, who contributed, and Sharon. So if you didn't get a chance to listen to these stories, you're welcome to go back. I wanted to share them as like little kind of doses of just soul medicine, these kind of tender stories from the heart to nourish us during these days. So, for those of you who don't know, I want to take you a little bit before we go into the kind of storytelling portion of the evening. I want to take you a bit on of La Befana through the ages. I am not a folklorist. At least, I mean, I guess I am in some ways. I am not a PhD studied folklorist. There are so many people that have such amazing knowledge. A friend of mine wanted to today was like, "Oh, Dina's an expert on La Befana." I would not even want to call myself that. I'm living into something, an understanding of something. I think all of us brings our own unique perspectives to this character, and we'll all see ourselves in her in different ways. So, by no means am I an expert on La Befana, but I'm just driven by a love and curiosity of this character and what she has come to mean in my life. So the Jen Campus, she's been on my podcast before. She's an incredible anthropologist and writer. This comes from her seasonal guide, the Heart of Winter, and she talks a little bit about looking at La Befana through the ages. So La Befana's origin has been her story has been passed down through generations. It's still celebrated today, right? So on the eve of the Epiphany, on January 5th, she takes to the night sky, bringing children gifts in a perpetual search for the Holy Child. Um, it is popularized through a nursery rhyme that many of you may know. My pronunciation may not be the best, but it goes, La Befana vien de notte, con le scarpe tutte rotte, col vestito alla romana. Viva, viva la Befana. And so La Befana comes at night with her shoes, like with broken shoes, dressed as a Roman, and not like Roman, like modern Rome, like the dress, her clothes, and long live Viva, viva la Befana. So her story has some Christian roots around the Epiphany. Her La Befana is the Festa della Epifania in Italy, and Befana, I believe, correct me if I am wrong. I think you know this, Elena. It's kind of like it's from Greek. It kind of came to understand
Yes, yes.
Epiphany to Befana.
Yes, because epiphany it's a Greek name, it's a Greek word. Yes. The verb, the Greek ancient Greek verb in that originated the word epiphany means to show, to manifest. And
Mm.
so yes, epiphany, and then it became La Befana in the vulgar Latin and then in Italian language. Yes.
So, if so for those of you who are unfamiliar, I just kind of take you through her story a little bit. It is said, right, her story is interwoven with that of the three magi's, who on this day said that they've arrived to the manger to bring gifts to baby Jesus. However, in Italy, whereas many of my friends from Latin America, they celebrate by on the night of the 5th, they're leaving out hay for the donkeys of the three kings. In Italian culture, we're leaving out our stockings or even our shoes for La Befana to bring very simple gifts. And as her story goes, La Befana, simple woman whose life was changed when these three kings came knocking on her door asking for directions to Bethlehem. From my imagination, she welcomed them in, she shared some hospitality with them. They then asked La Befana to go with them on their journey, and she said no. And I imagine many of you guys know why, because she had too many dishes to do. And how many of us with some of our Italian grandmothers and everyone? I remember when I went to go visit my family in Sicily, there was like, oh, I have laundry to do. I was like, stop it. I just wore it for 5 seconds. Don't put it in the laundry and we won't have something to do. But so La Befana turned that invitation down as she's looking at the star and, all of a sudden realizes her big mistake and has said that ever since then she ran out with all of her small gifts and dates and nuts and her broom still in hand because she was always sweeping and has been on a perpetual search for the Magi and the Christ child ever since, and delivering children, all the children of Italy, gifts kind of just in case. Um, and it's a beautiful story I that I did not actually grow up with, nor the tradition of. I came to her in later in life, which I will be sharing with you. Jen Campus also tells us that La Befana goes even older than that, before the Christ child. Some people say that La Befana has pagan roots, that she's derived from Strenia, a Roman goddess known for purification and renewal. And just as the new year is often a time of resolutions and starting anew, Strenia was historically given offerings around this time of the year by the Romans, and her feast was called Bastrina. And traditionally, the Bastrina gifts were figs and dates and honey, which are very similar to the gifts that La Befana leaves to children in the present day. If you did not catch the 12 days of Befana, Beth on the last day gives a nice summary of her connection of La Befana's connection to this goddess, uh, the Bastrina, the goddess of strength. And so I definitely check that out. And then today we have modern celebrations of La Befana. So today La Befana is the festival is celebrated in Italy with parades and gift giving and traditional Italian treats. I have not been to Italy for this. It is like a dream to go. I know in Urbania's, someone they would say that they do a big festive thing. I've heard in Venice they like they do like something on the boats, whatever. I'm sure it's celebrated in many different ways. There is a wonderful book called The Return of the Befana that really goes deeply into the academics. Steve Saporin is his name, and it goes into the more rural celebrations of Befana. So it's just like once you've gotten Befana, your imagination is just there's just so much. Um, so I want us so now our celebration of La Befana tonight is going to be a little bit different. I love a good festa, but today we're going to kind of bring it down a little bit and try to and kind of create a more contemplative space. Tonight, we're going to use the power of our imagination to transform this Zoom screen into a table, and one that is both ancient and new. So I'm going to ask if you can, just to be comfortable where you are. Let's all maybe take a deep breath together and take this Zoom screen of ours, and with the wild gifts of our imagination, really try to work to transform this and imagine that this is a table, both ancient and new, from all the way from La Befana's pre-pagan roots, meeting us here in our modern lives today. If you want, you could take a moment to get settled in a little bit. You can light a candle. I have a real one, as well as um, the other one. I have this one right. Ooh, let's not. I have this one as well. If you want to light a candle, you're welcome to. If you just kind of want to have an even imaginary one and light that, you can as well. Don't worry, you have everything that you need. Um, it's just kind of symbolic. And let's take a moment to just ground ourselves where we are. Maybe feel our feet on the floor. Sitting in our chair, wherever we are, really feel supported. Feel where your chair or couch, whatever you're sitting on, is how it holds you and supports your body, where the weight of your body meets the chair and where the weight of your feet meet the floor. wherever you find yourself. You can even imagine your own feet and the roots, your own roots, whatever lineage you come from, whether you are of Italian. I imagine most people here are of Italian American descent, but I won't assume. And yet you are here at this table. As we gather around La Befana's table, I will, if you can keep your cameras on, you can. If you can't, that's fine, whatever's really most comfortable. But tonight is really a practice of giving and receiving the gift of presence, that we could really be present with each other. So I would ask, just even before I go into the storytelling portion, that you just take a moment. Oh, hi, Kendall. That you could take a moment and just glance at your Zoom screen and all of these faces, wherever they've come from, and give them like little eye hugs. So I see Vanessa over there, and I'm going to give her a little eye hug. So just take a moment to take in the faces on your screen at this ancient and new table, and the names of the people on our screens who for whatever for their reasons don't have their pictures on. The La Befana brings little gifts, and I think often we don't think how deep and powerful it is just to have the gift of our presence, just to see each other, take in each other's presence. So I'd ask for that. Ooh, I see Jennifer's got a nice little cup of tea or something. I love that. Do whatever makes you comfortable. Tonight we are here to be fully here with what is alive in this moment, without judgment nor expectation. Tonight we are here to notice, just notice what stirs within us, the images, memories, feelings, and to honor the multitude of stories that each of us is carrying in our bodies, in our lineages. And with that, I'm going to share the story of how my own journey became interwoven with that of an ancient legend. Though I have done some exploring, sharing this story in a more kind of theatrical, comedic way in the past, this year I feel called to share the story as simply and honestly as I can, not as a performance, but just to share it. I invite you to let it land within you as it may. As I bring the story to a close, I'm going to invite you to settle into silence and even shut your eyes after. There's no need to react or applaud. I will invite you, however, you are invited to make a simple gesture when I finish by putting your hands together like this or like this to acknowledge that the story was received. I'll then lead us in some questions for quiet contemplation, followed by a short sharing session where we could share a little bit of what was bubbling or stirring in us. And if we have time, a little quiet time to write our own letters to La Befana and tell her and ask her for whatever it is that our hearts really need to ask her for. That is something that you can keep private. And with that, I'll begin my story. While La Befana's origins are centuries old, my relationship with her began much more recently. It was the summer of 2018. I was recently divorced, living in Harlem, and messily trying to figure out what it meant to be a woman on my own. Walking down Lenox Avenue in those days felt like I was walking in the land of liminality. My old life hadn't fully died, and the new one had yet to be born. Heartbreak had busted down the door to my soul, leaving me with a mix of personal and ancestral grief that felt far too heavy to carry alone. The Glennon Doyle mantra, first the pain and then the rising, played on a loop in my head. But the harder I tried to rise as the hero of my own story, the lonelier and more exhausted I became. My Instagram feed was filled with rewilding women selling me transcendence without roots. I had a graveyard full of courses that promised me someone else's transformation. And I fell for all the clever marketing because I was too afraid to trust my own. Then one 4th of July at a friend's rooftop party in Park Slope, I met a woman who told me she had a puppet of Italy's legendary La Befana sitting in a box on a shelf in Los Angeles. It had been built for a children's television show that never made it to production. Hearing that a puppet of Italy's legendary La Befana, a figure from my own ancestral cultural heritage, was just sitting in a box made me strangely sad. It felt unfair for her story to end simply because Hollywood had given her the kibosh. So I told this woman, whom I had met only hours earlier, well, if she needs a new home, I'll take her. A few days later, a FedEx box arrived. Inside was a large felt muppet of old La Befana, complete with one stubborn tooth, a wart on her chin, and a nose even bigger than mine. When I pulled her out of the box, I was hit with a wave of nostalgia for a time long gone. Old La Befana reminded me in many ways of my Nonna Anna, a woman who never left her bed without saying her rosary and kissing each of her saint cards. She was spiritual and spunky Sicilian woman who married and divorced the same man twice and was known for attempting the split when my father had given her one too many scotch and sodas. I used to love when she would come to visit and still vividly recall the days when she, my great aunt Tess, and other family members would sit around our kitchen table telling stories and harmonizing songs. I had hoped to create new family memories around the gorgeous wooden table my husband and I had purchased to furnish our upstate farmhouse dream. Instead, some other woman was now creating memories around it. As I held that puppet in my hands, I wondered, what the hell do I do now? Almost immediately, I felt a whisper. Say yes to the adventure. Fear and self-doubt, of course, rose up right away. And while I have often succumbed to both, there was something about that puppet that invited me beyond my own limiting beliefs. After all, if I were her, I wouldn't want to be cooped up in a box when I could be out in the world having an adventure. Still, I hesitated. Though I'm Italian American, I hadn't grown up leaving my stocking out for La Befana's yearly visit. I had never puppeteered a day in my life, and I didn't speak fluent Italian. Needless to say, I felt terribly unqualified for the job. Come on, Dina, I heard her say. What's a puppet without a puppeteer? Had loneliness and longing for a time long gone gotten so bad that I was carrying on a conversation with a puppet? Was I talking to myself or was I actually talking to her? Either way, the puppet needed me, and as it turned out, I needed the puppet too. I had been taking my healing journey far, far, far too seriously, and a whimsical plot twist was exactly what my soul needed. So one day, despite my hesitation, I decided to go for it. I slipped my hand into the opening of her back, maneuvered it up her small puppet spine, and then something miraculous happened. She came alive. While I was worried what people might think of me, La Befana was unbothered. She greeted strangers of all ages like long lost friends. Ciao, amici. How's your heart today? I'm a La Befana. What's your name? Any chance you've seen the Holy Child? I've been looking for him for thousands of years, and I'm getting a little tired. She offered high fives to every passerby. Some accepted, others didn't. Then she'd mutter under her breath, well, an old lady like me's not going to be for everybody. Slowly, I began to realize that my job wasn't to manage or control people's reactions in this whimsical experiment in street puppetry. I simply needed to get out of the way, follow my creative impulses, and let La Befana take the lead. Before long, neighbors of mine in Harlem started treating La Befana as if she were real. There were smiles, laughters, high fives, and moments when people paused long enough for the din of modern day life to subside. And in that strange space where ancient legend met the streets of New York, something beautiful began to emerge. When I took her on the subway, she didn't shout, "Showtime." She sat quietly, like everyone else going about their day. But instead of staring at the phone, she gazed around the subway car, mesmerized by her newfound life. Scusi, does this train stop at 14th Street? She'd ask. The puppet became a kind of sacred disruptor, puncturing the monotony of our overly scheduled, technology crazed, and fear ridden world. These moments felt like pure medicine, and the puppet felt like she was a portal to an original innocence. People on my block began calling me the Puppet Lady, a title I surprisingly grew to like. Of all the things to be in this world, perhaps an eccentric puppet lady wasn't such a bad one. Then the pandemic arrived. Like so many others, I felt frightened, lonely, unmoored. The sound of the ambulances and the 7 p.m. clatter of pots and pans were a reminder that we were in the fight against death. And I would often find myself wondering if I was going to be able to see and touch my parents again, who were quarantined in a nursing home on 125th Street. And yet I had this strange companion whose ancient legend gave me faith that we would make it through. Through fear, trauma, and uncertainty made it, though fear, trauma, and uncertainty made it much easier to self-isolate and hide, La Befana continued to draw me out and into the world. No pandemic was going to stop La Befana from her perpetual search. So I bought her a plastic face mask and we carried on with our work. At the height of the pandemic, La Befana partnered with City Relief Bus, handing out cookies to those in need and offering much needed moments of comic relief. She befriended many people there, including a man named Ken, who worked security for the Salvation Army where the city bus parked on 137th Street. He liked to call La Befana his girl. Whenever she'd volunteer, they'd chat. She told him about her love interest, Pasquale, back in the old country, and how even though she missed him, she was making new friends. She was enjoying making new friends on the streets of New York. She also participated in community cleanups. And by participated, I mean she'd sit beside Miss Geraldine, an elder in the neighborhood, and lovingly yell at the kids to stop what they were doing and lend a hand. Like any good guide, La Befana led me from loneliness and isolation into meaningful connection, creating a bridge not only between myself and my neighbors, but more importantly, between an ancient legend from my own ancestral cultural heritage and the one that was unfolding before my eyes. Eventually, though, it became clear that the time had come to let the puppet go. The line between myth and reality had grown a little too blurry, and I needed time and space to integrate the lessons of this whimsical journey. Believe me, leaving the magical world I had discovered through this puppet and returning to the humdrum world of adulting with all its narratives of doom and gloom and us and them was not easy at all. And though it has been many years since I carried the La Befana puppet around, her gifts are ones that I will carry for the rest of my life. From her, I learned to see all of life as sacred. And while La Befana is perpetually seeking, sometimes our deepest healing comes from letting all parts of us be found. La Befana showed me that life, La Befana showed me that life is about showing up, warts and all, and sharing the gifts we have, no matter how humble or small. And now, when I sweep the floor of my own little abode, I no longer feel alone because I know that I belong to a legend far greater than my own. Thank you. So if you don't mind, if you take a moment just to, if your eyes were closed, they can stay closed. If they're open, that's open. But we're going to just do a little contemplation that is inspired by a Lectio Divina contemplative practice. And we'll start with noticing. Take just a few seconds, 30 seconds maybe, to notice what caught your attention in the story. Was there a word, phrase, or image that stood out to you? This is not to be analyzed, it's just to be noticed. Just see where that word or phrase or image lands. And if there's nothing, that's cool too. Now allow yourself to reflect a little bit more deeply. Where do you recognize yourself in this search? What image, memory, or feeling stayed with you as you listened? Let yourself sit with these impressions and let them speak to you. Again, this is not about analyzing, just letting them land. We'll just take that moment for about a minute. Where do you recognize yourself in La Befana's search? What image, memory, or feeling stayed as you listened? If it feels right, imagine responding quietly from your own heart. What has been revealing itself to you? What are you still searching for? You don't have to name any destination, but what are you still searching for? What is still searching for you? Respond to this inwardly in your mind or in your heart. There's no need to speak or write, but if that's how you engage, you're welcome to write down things that are uh, uh, bubbling up or stirring. And finally, we're just going to rest in the silence itself. Allow the story, any of the images, the insights that arose just to settle in your body. Just be here with whatever is present. No need to figure anything out. Let the quiet be your companion, the same way that puppet was my companion. And now, at this moment, when you feel like coming back, I'll open up the space a little bit for anyone who feels called. This is not a share or die type of event. Your presence is totally fine enough. But if you do feel called to share a word or a phrase or an image or something that emerged for you, you can. You don't need to share your whole experience. We'll hopefully maybe have more opportunities to share more. But just whatever really feels alive for you, you're also welcome to just keep sitting with, quietly keep sitting with, and letting those images do their work on you. But if anyone would like to share, the floor is open for a little bit of sharing.
Well, the chat is full, Dina. The chat
Uh,
is full. I've never seen a chat so full of messages.
I'll have, we have to remember to save it before we go off so that we can
Yeah,
read it.
yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So I don't know if anyone wants to speak up. Otherwise, we can go to the chat. But it would be nice to have someone speak. Yes, Danielle, unmute
Unmute
yourself.
yourself.
Yes,
Yes,
hi.
hi. Yes. Hello. So I wanted to share that one of the things that really stood out, and like I had to turn my camera off, otherwise I would be like crying in the camera, was taking the healing journey so seriously.
Mm.
And because I met you on this wildly crazy ancestral healing journey where we were both kind of creating art from it, but I was thinking about that we can experience this, our ancestral trauma, right? And these
Mm.
are, what is that? That is the experience of, it could be the women in our family, the different
Mm.
layers of types of hurts and everything. But also this, at the same time, to venerate this
Mm.
experience as well. So there's like this grieving and celebration at the same time, and like finding those pockets of magic, and then
Mm.
eventually like seeing how it unfolds. It transcends magic and becomes almost an alchemical process.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Anyone else wants to share something? Yes, Carolina.
Yes, I would like to ask, where is the journey going of puppeteering? It seems like there's no puppeteers anymore. I used to make actually gloves for puppeteers for them, black gloves, so they could perform. And we had friends who were puppeteers, and there's no puppeteers. We need them for our next generation.
Yeah.
Can you be inspired?
Yeah, I'm definitely inspired. I had no idea. Um, I had no idea. I did nothing with puppetry, and then later I realized I did another piece. Vanessa Racci had me perform at her prima donna event, and I did a contemplation on the prima donnas of puppetry, and shared about Sicilian puppeteer. And other puppeteers that I did not know were in our ancestry, that puppetry is so big. There's also a small fact that I know. I can't quote me so much, but I believe that most of there's a huge majority of the puppeteers on Sesame Street are of Italian American descent. So it's in the blood. Those puppets are there. So yes, I do hope to carry puppetry forward. Continue to. I'm considering a master's of a graduate course right now, but yes, I hope, yeah, maybe, the puppets. I think we need the puppets. We put, from my experience in the street, I don't want to share too much. This is for you guys to share, but um, people really need puppets. They are therapeutic. They allow us to tap into aspects of ourselves that we could probably not tap into. They're really incredible conduits of I would say of spirit of allowing our spirit to shine through, that we might not have. So if anyone is there, go find a puppet.
Laura Parisi says that UConn has a puppetry program and a beautiful museum. So
Thank you. I'm actually looking at their graduate course in puppetry. So
exactly.
they have a 12 credit course, and I'm like, maybe it is time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Is there anyone else who would like to share any stirrings, any images, any things that stayed with you or are working on you? And you know, it does its work on you if you allow it for much more than today. Ari, I think I saw your hand up.
Yeah. Hi, thank you
Hi,
so much
Tom.
for sharing.
Yeah.
Um, I do a cabaret show called The Women We Carry that's about my great grandmother from Italy who I never met and
Mm,
connecting us together. So to hear just your story, I never thought about how it actually goes further back than my great grandmother. Actually, this ancestral healing you were talking about and um, the legend, this ancient legend, like it just brought me into a whole bigger picture of how far our story goes back.
mm, yeah.
So Italian American. So, and I'm always I have this like obsession of thinking about this long line of people and women who we've come from. So,
Mm,
I really connected with it. Thank you for sharing.
mm. Thank you. Yeah, it's um I find that her legend, in particular, it has helped me to land, to find my place in something larger that allows my system to settle. There is something really powerful when you can locate yourself within these greater cosmic, mythic, if you are Catholic or Christian, these stories. Um, when you can locate yourself within them. I'll just share briefly. One time I was performing this with some kids. I after I let go of the puppet, I embodied the character and did this for some kids. And I had the kids, I was like, okay, I need someone to be the door. Now I need someone to be the doorknob. And the what I got when I was doing that, and then I sat in the contemplation about that after, is that when you can locate yourself in the great story, the greater story, being the doorknob is pretty fucking amazing. You're like, I'll be the doorknob, and I think sometimes we struggle so much with everything that it makes you need to be famous. You have to be this, you have to be all of those things. But when you can locate yourself within the greater story, like, oh, yeah, thanks, I'll play the doorknob. That was a little bit of something that I would love to pass forward in that.
I think that's the threshold, right? The literal threshold,
Yeah,
right?
the literal one.
And that connectivity. I was struck. I tapped into, so funny. It was just such a beautiful recollection and story that you shared. Thank you. But you mentioned she left Pasquale behind. And Pasquale is a family name. That's my grandfather's name. I've got two great grandfathers, a great great grandfather. They're all Pasquale. And for me, it's always about what they left behind, right?
Mm,
Everything, we're all on that I think most of us, what brings us here, right? And the work that we all do is about this connection to our past and the loved ones that were
mm,
either left behind or that are no longer here. And all of it allows us to feel closer, I think,
mm,
to um to those people that aren't here and whatever that means. And I often grapple, I'm decolonializing and a lot of what I do. And for me, what's really um a challenge is to distinguish between what's really happening in liminal space and what's just my imagination,
mm.
right? And this idea of imagination being as it is real, right?
It
It's
is.
as real as we need it to be. And I think that those are the things that were really coming through for me. And
Mm,
then the just perpetual nature of all of it, it just always keeps going.
mm.
It's just something that came up for me. So there's just a few things that just
Yeah.
really hit for me. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I didn't notice that about the Pasquale one, but I think, yeah, that really does, what we leave behind in these migrations, and for what La Befana's journey had to do to migrate to New York and find me is a pretty wild mystery in and of itself of the creative force. I did not make La Befana. She was a creation of someone else, a project that died and then got reborn and then died. And right? It's this ongoing power of creativity as a force of holiness in our lives.
Something that's striking me that of what you're saying right now is Jennifer Williams Marascio. I'm Italian American as well,
Welcome.
and it's lovely to be amongst these beautiful women. Um, is that, being Italian American, one of the threads that binds us eternally is that the American experience was created for us
Mm,
by people who did leave so much behind. And another thing that binds us, I find with our people is the constant searching.
mm,
And it's a bit of a
longing.
restlessness I
Yes.
find in the Italian American community. And those of you that are in this time together, you might identify with that at times. It's a restlessness that comes from a searching and a reaching backwards,
Mm,
sometimes to, our ancestry and to our story, our own legends. And that
mm,
causes a bit of restlessness sometimes
yeah.
within us.
Yes.
And I think what anchors me is to live within the legend of my life that I'm creating
Mm, mm-hmm,
and to let that legend be inspired.
mm-hmm.
So, for example, La Befana is this lovely, cozy legend to wrap our arms around
Yeah.
that's so idealistic in so many ways. Many of us have nonne that are legends to us. Each of us probably
Yeah.
do have a family member like my nonna. She's a legend. I named my child after her, and then I'm gonna emerge as a legend because I'm
Yes.
part of the story. We're part of the narrative.
Yeah.
And so as we're reaching and we feel restless to connect, to
Mm,
understand, to embrace the
mm,
journey that has led us to this space of our
mm.
ancestors, we have to remember to be present in our own legends that we're actively creating
That we're
and
living
that we're
into
living.
reality, living into being these living
Mhm.
legends. Thank
And so
you.
thank you so much for sharing your
Lord,
story and allowing yourself to be so vulnerable in
thank you.
in
I
sharing your story with us. It's really quite lovely.
thank you so
Grazie.
much. Yeah.
Grazie.
I've often
È un
found
bel racconto.
as a woman who's been very taken by longing, like I'm like, I didn't, the closest thing to understand that feeling for me was when I went to Brazil and learned saudade, and then I was like, what is this thing? My God. And then and it was like, is it the past? But what I've really been sitting with is that it's a longing that is actually it belongs to the future for me, that it's a longing that belongs to the future, that does not belong to the past. That nostalgia, in many ways, can become very much a trap because we can romanticize things of the past, where it's much harder and requires much more courage to confront our lives in the present and live our way into that longing, which is the future and our future, the generations that will come after us,
Mm.
right? That maybe someone is going to watch the Zooms. I have no idea what happens with any of this, but maybe someone will remember later and come to these understandings faster than 44 and a lot of therapy.
I wonder a little bit about La Befana's history. I read something, I know that she's pre-Christian in a lot of ways, but the celebration of her, I had read something somewhere at along the way about, when it became popular to celebrate in this way. And it wasn't necessarily something that my grandparents did. And so it wasn't a tradition for us. We're reestablishing the tradition in our family.
Yeah.
My children, they've received gifts today. They've received gifts the
Mhm.
last couple of years. I'm hoping that it's something that will stick and they'll
Yeah.
create the tradition with their kids in maybe a better way than the weird way that I'm kind of piecing it together for them. And that it'll be hopefully have a little bit more resonance and relevancy for them over time. Um, but it's interesting to me that idea that like it's not my father didn't do this. My grandparents did not do this. They
Yeah.
did they you know, if they celebrated the Epiphany, that was definitely something. But you know, Little Christmas was something we heard from some of our Orthodox friends. You
Yeah.
know, that was not something that we were, you know, that we looked at as a gift exchange or a folkloric tale or anything like that. So, I think, you know, I think there's something really beautiful about how much of my feeds right now on social media, because of, you know, being involved in these spaces, I'm inundated with all day long. La Befana is everywhere for me. And I hope that other people are seeing that. I hope that it's outside of these, you know, of these spaces where it is going to start to permeate a little bit more and people do start to embrace it more and it just becomes one more touch point, just like other things that we do to reconnect to those things we lost, right?
Yeah.
So, or those things that we really lost, like that even our grandparents didn't know.
I just
Angela?
wanted to
Yeah.
share.
Yeah.
Um, I
Thank you.
came at the age of 9 years old, and I came in October, and then Christmas came, and they talked about Santa Claus, and I had never heard of Santa Claus.
Wow.
And there had been my niece was 6 months old that we had just met when we came, and so everything was for my niece being the baby and everything. And so La Befana kind of was taken away.
Mm.
And when I became an Italian teacher, I suddenly said, this is my opportunity to bring her back.
Yes.
And I've been playing her for probably 35 years, if not more.
We need all of the Labafanas.
And my students learned her poem, except they had to learn Zitti Zitti Presto a Letto. That was my first year, and each one of them. So for me, finding a group like this that is finding the roots all over
Mm.
is amazing
Mm.
because I had lost it for so many years. And then when I had my own children, I said, they're going to get it. They're going to get the opportunity. And my daughter is 40 years old, and she still gets a little gift, as do
Mm.
my grandsons from La Befana.
Mm.
So she's definitely part of who I am.
Mm.
And I live in a 50 plus small complex. This morning, La Befana went at 6:30 in the morning and put little bags of dolce and a little bit of carbone on each door with a note from La Befana.
Beautiful.
Nice. Very nice.
We have to keep her alive.
Yes. Is there anyone else who feels called to share anything that was stirring and emerging? And we're technically over time. I will bring this to a wrap up soon, but at La Befana, we could keep going a little bit. I'll stay until everyone feels like, complete. Um, if there's anyone who something was stirred, an image that stayed with you, a feeling as I was telling you that story. Um, am I still sharing a screen?
Yes.
What am I sharing? Oh, stop sharing. There we go. I want to see everybody.
I have something to say, but it's
Yeah.
it's short.
That's fine, Jean. Thank you.
I was struck by your talking about being in this liminal space where things were
falling apart. You don't know quite where you're going. Things have gone away, but you're not quite sure where you're headed, which I relate to right now. And that in that moment that you find something that connects you to your roots. That was very striking to me. I feel at this moment, because I am in a liminal space, that my ancestors in some way are with me. It's not through La Befana, but it's in some way that I cannot name. And so that's the connection between ancestry and now is very, and future, heading into some kind of future is
Yeah.
strong for me at this moment. So that's something that I connected to. So many things I connected to. Thank you, Dina.
Thank you, Jean. I appreciate it.
Well, we can do this, I mean, more times in the future because
It looks like we'll have to come back for a round two. I'm gonna I'll share my screen one more time with you. Let's see. Canva. Okay. So I would encourage you to, after this, write La Befana a letter. And our beautiful folkloric character has a lot of space. She's not demanding so much of us other than being honest with ourselves and sweeping away the things that, maybe we don't need and revealing really more of who we are. And I would really, after spending so much time with the character, physically, like in the physical manifest form in a puppet, and then really through my imagination, I would just say that La Befana did not encounter me in some state of like holy perfection. I was like a wild mess of a woman. And to just go like, yeah, she stayed with me all that time, while I was making some really interesting some interesting choices in other parts of my personal life. But as a woman, as even if the men on here, feel free to write her a letter. Write her the letter and tell her what you really need to say. And I offer that to you. And then I want to share with you something that new that has been born from all of these wild journeys from over the years. And it is this. Are we presenting? Present full screen. Yes, present. Okay. And it is this. Epiphanies I've found don't always arrive all at once, and they arrive gently over time, and they whisper us to us if we pay attention. And the message that I have got and that I created is that we can be Befana, and that part of keeping her alive is being Befana. I created this campaign, the Be Befana campaign. It was kind of born out of that whisper over these past 12 days. Danielle has seen me bring it to fruition. I thank you for rooting me on. And it's I've made this because I feel like this shirt is a quiet signal to ourselves and to one another that another way of being and doing is possible, that it is never too late to begin again, that what endures is not domination, but generosity, not spectacle, but care, not the power of King Herod, but the quiet persistence of an old woman who keeps offering her gifts year after year after year. To me, this message that has come through to be Befana is to believe that small, faithful acts matter. To sweep the floor, to light the fire, to offer welcome, to leave a gift, and to trust that love persists, that our stories are never fully written, and that they're to always leave room for a whimsical plot twist. The design of this shirt was created by a woman named Victoria Half. She's a Mexican artist living in Calabria, Italy, who, if you listen to La Befana's Table podcast, she's episode 33. Her work carries the same spirit of movement, migration, and imaginative belonging that lives at the heart of this project of La Befana's Table. The funds, I will say the funds for the Be Befana campaign will go to support the ongoing work of my creative work and artistry with La Befana's Table, and with 10% of the proceeds being donated to the Center for Immigrant Children's Rights, which is a cause that I hold near and dear to my heart as I spent the years that I let the puppet go. I spent 4 years working with unaccompanied children. And so a percentage of the proceeds goes to that. So if you're interested, yeah, this is our invitation to be Befanas together. I want to thank so much the National Organization of Italian American Women. For some of you, you are members. I'm a member. I encourage membership into the National Organization of Italian American Women. Was started in the 1980s and continues to today, uplifting the voices of Italian American women and bringing us together. And I just want to thank you guys so much for offering me a platform for tonight to be able to share my story and connect with other people in our heritage. I will leave a link. You can always find my stuff. I'll leave a little link to where you can follow me for La Befana's Table. And if there's anything else, please, we will keep in touch. I hope that this can be the beginning of a larger conversation, and just continued
Absolutely.
unfolding.
Yes, thank you very much, Dina. Also, I'm very, very happy that we had this moment tonight, because we as Noia are very, very committed to tell women's stories.
Yeah.
And her story, because I mean, we know that history has been written and told by men, but actually we are more than half of the planet.
Yes.
So we should have our voices heard and shared. And so, and La Befana is actually, I mean, a nice lady. Everyone holds her a lot, I'm sure. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone, for being with us tonight. And this is just the beginning. It's a promise.
Thank you, guys. Please stay in touch, and buona Befana and happy Epiphany. Many blessings always from La Befana's Table to yours, and from Noia to you guys as well. Thank you guys so much for this time together. And with that, as you're leaving, I'll just share one last little video for while you're leaving, if you want, a little portion of my journey with Befana in the street. You can watch just a.
Also, keep in mind that this program is being recorded. So if you want the recording, I will be more than happy to share it with you tomorrow.
And here is a little. This was actually taken on January 6, 2021, from an outing from a cookie. Yes, a cookie outing that I did with La Befana. Oh.
Yeah, there's some sound.
To meet us, the darkness won't defeat us. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Some say that some sell our souls. Stay strong, keep your faith alive. Somehow home. Take care of each other. Stay strong. Keep your feet down. We are.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a
Thank
good night,
you. Buona
everyone.
Befana. Happy Epiphany, everybody.
Epiphany. Bye. Bye bye.